Perfect. Okay, so I do have let me spotlight a few people. That's spotlight. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to be doing a quick presentation about entry level, and then we can get started with the Q&A. But first, I want to know where everybody's from. So maybe put in the chat where you're calling in from, so I can try to guess what time it is in your time zone. Jamal, you're in Nigeria, right?
Yes.
So it's 4 or 5 p.m. 4 p.m. No, 5 p.m. Right? Yes, 5 p.m. Okay, someone in the chat said 5 p.m. That's awesome. Okay, looks like we have a lot of people in Nigeria. Thanks for being here. Awesome. Let me just quickly share my screen for my presentation. Okay, can you see my screen? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, we can see.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so a little bit about us. We help you learn and get experience so that you can get hired. These are some of our available courses. We also have a course on Python, but I think most of you here are interested in UX design, which is what we'll be talking about. Rules before we start, please don't spam the chat with unnecessary information. Keep things on topic and respectful, and keep your mics muted so we can hear the speakers. I also want to know what level you're at so we can personalize the questions and answers to your level. So can you let me know in the chat if you are a complete beginner, if you've taken a few courses on UX design, if you've landed an internship in UX, or if you are currently working in tech. So, oh, somebody's working in tech. Okay, that's awesome. Congratulations. Some people have taken a few courses. One person's a beginner. Okay, so maybe Jamal, you can keep that in mind when you're answering questions, because some people here have some experience, but mainly beginners. Okay, perfect. So a little bit about us. We want to reskill 1 billion people by 2030. And by being here, you're helping with our mission because we want to help you land the job. Again, these are our available courses. And if you take one, I think some of you have already, you'll have a portfolio certificate and feedback on your work. Now, let's get to the event and introduce Jamo. So Jamo, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure, no problem. All right. Good evening, everyone. And I'm pretty sure most of the participants here, people here are from Nigeria as well. We're in the same country. We come from the same country. So that's pretty cool. Good evening once again. So my name is Jima Idris, and I am a senior product designer for an internet service provider company here in Nigeria that uses solar-based stations to provide internet services. Also, I belong to an NGO where I am a consultant for UX designs in Abuja, which is the capital city for Nigeria. And on the sides, I'm also lead product designer for a startup, a food delivery startup in Lagos and in Kwara State. And at the same time, I tutor students as well, mentorship. I provide mentorship for students in Design Lab. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. It's very similar to entry level. So I'll just give a brief overview of how I started design. I started in 2019 after I finished my NYSC. Majority of you guys know that here. I have a bachelor's degree in telecommunications and computer science. So what's actually prompted me to learn design is because I noticed there's this level of satisfaction that you get when you are able to design something that a lot of people, thousands or millions of people can use. There's a lot of satisfaction that comes from there. You can think of it as, Steve Jobs and, how they, founded Apple or how they designed the products that we use today. It all started from ideas, and they always be proud of what they've done. So that's it.
That's awesome. Wait, so you said you had a bachelor's in computer science, but a lot of people always ask, do you need to know coding to learn design?
No, not at all. Not at all. I have a bachelor's degree in computer science and telecommunications. That's strictly networking. So I used to be a network engineer. right? I configure routers, switches, and all of that before I moved or transitioned to being a UX designer. So you necessarily do not have to learn how to code before you can design. But if you can code, it's a bit helpful, but it's not a requirement.
Did you find the knowledge helpful for you in your job?
Yes, very well, very well. You will understand, you would appreciate when you can code a bit, especially when you're handing off to developers, because when you work with developer as a UI UX designer, at some point you'll be working closely with developers and not just stakeholders alone. So there are some components or assets in your design that if you understand basic programming, I'm talking of just purely maybe CSS or something, you would find it much easier and flexible to design assets and components that you can hand over to developers to work with. And if developers request for some kind of changes or iterations on your assets or components, you know the best way to give it to them that would suit them.
Oh, okay. So what would you recommend beginners start with when they're learning? Like, would you recommend like a beginner UX class, like a UI class, and then like learning coding? Or like what's the roadmap here?
Okay, all right. Yeah. So since you are going to, there's this thing we call full stack product designer, just like we have full stack developer. Yes, there's a full stack designer. And let me just break it down. A full stack design is someone that is good in user experience design, you're good in UI, and at the same time you have a bit of graphic design knowledge, right? And probably some a little coding skills as well. But that's not the most important thing here. What I'm trying to say is if you are getting started into UI UX design, in my own case, I started with learning Python programming language, right? I learned Python for about 6 months. I was able to build something close to that. Then I learned CSS along the line and HTML. Then I then moved to UI UX design. And the reason for that is I always see these beautiful user interfaces that people design and all of that. And I appreciated it critical or the creative thinking of that very well because as a UX designer or UI UX designer, you are the architect of the product. You decide how the product would be, how it would flow, right? Just imagine if you work in an automobile company, let's say Mercedes-Benz or Toyota, they don't just go into the production line with the way the cars are, the bumper, the headlights, the tail lights. There has to be some kind of prototype, some kind of design that has been carved with your hands or something or with a tool, then back to the computer graphics that will now design that, then back to where the engineers will now have to work on that. So it's pretty similar with this. So if you're getting started with UI UX design, it's not compulsory you learn how to code, right? If you don't have that roadmap as being a full stack designer, you can start basically with taking courses with Google or entry level or any other thing you can imagine. The more important part of being a product designer is your user experience abilities and your UI skills. When you have that, every other thing else are just by the side.
And a way to get that experience is doing projects, right? So what are the projects that you would recommend people have for their portfolio so that they can get hired?
Okay, all right, good. That's a very brilliant question. I think right now, if you look at the way things are, we have passed the stages of, should I say, simple project, right? What I mean by that is towards the beginning of the year or towards last year, we see the emergence of Web3. I know you guys must have heard about Web3 stuffs. We've seen crypto stuffs everywhere. We've seen AI, we've seen virtual realities and all of that. Yeah, don't get scared. As a beginner, you don't have to rush to those things, right? Do the simplest things first, because from there you can build on them. So the projects I would recommend are projects that that you have a passion for, or you see yourself working in that industry or in that market. Now, for example, if you're someone that likes traveling a lot, you can explore projects that has to do with traveling, right? You can design apps that has to do with traveling or booking tickets or stuff like that. If you're someone that enjoys reading, you can work on projects that has to do with that, because you are very good. You are going to get the best results when you work on projects that you have knowledge on, or when you have a very good or wide range of knowledge upon. If you're not very good with crypto, let me say, it's going to be very hard for you to design a product that is similar to that, because if you don't understand the problem, how are you going to solve it, right? So as a beginner, you can start working on things that you are passionate about, things that makes you, go for more, things that makes you comfortable, things that you think you have 90% of, the not just the product alone, but even the market or the industry as a whole. So with time, you can start building on them and taking more challenging products as you move on.
That's really good advice, because I think when you're building a portfolio, you need to keep in mind what job you want to work for. So if you want to work in the travel industry, then your portfolio projects should be travel related, because you should work where you like. Do you have any advice for like what people look for in the portfolio? Like, how do you structure your projects and like your case studies?
Okay, all right. So that's good, because nowadays I think hiring managers look at a lot of things when you submit your portfolio, when you're applying for a job, and it's pretty much very dynamic. When I say dynamic, is some companies want to see your full process, how you start from A to Z. What are your challenges? What did you do? How did you solve them? What roadblocks did you encounter? What happened and what led to what you've done. And some hiring managers in some companies, they really do not care. What they really care about is, we just want to see probably your UI skills. Are they very good? They are not really interested in the write-ups and all of that. So for me, I have this thing that I do. It's like an hybrid stuff, right? Your portfolio should be hybrid. What I mean by hybrid is you should have one or two projects that has concrete case studies, right? That explains the process, everything you've done, what you did, how you did it, what problems you were solving, what's changed, what led to the changes, and what did you learn from the project. And at the same time, you should also have projects that do not have stories, right? Just go straight to the point, tell them what you've done, show them the output, and you're good to go. So that way, if you are, there's no way you would know what hiring managers are looking for. But if you're able to combine the two, if you're in hybrid, you have case studies and you have projects that just have, the output or whatever mockups you've been able to get from there, you stand a very good chance of being hired, because you can't tell what the hiring manager is looking for. So the best way is to give them all so they can choose and work around with that.
Oh, that's interesting. So how many projects should a beginner have on their portfolio?
Can you repeat that, please?
How many projects should you put on your portfolio if you're a beginner?
Yes. I think maximum of 3 projects. Yes, 3 projects maximum. Don't do too much. Don't do too much, and don't do very less. Yeah. So 3 projects. If you're a beginner, I would say use one as one of the best one. Make it a case study, right? Then the other 2, you can just make it a very light, portfolio project where you just export whatever things you've done, the assets and the mockups, and let it be there and just write a little about it. But 3 is a very good number to have.
Okay, that's good advice. Thanks for sharing.
And remember, your best project should only be your portfolio. If you're not proud of it, you don't have to put it there. So your portfolio is your marketplace. It's what that sells you. It's like a billboard banner. So you put the best project there.
Interesting. And like, is this a website, or like, where do you recommend putting your portfolio?
Yeah, of course. You try to, okay, now, for example, I do advise beginners to release 3 type of projects for their portfolios. The first one is a mobile app, right? A complete mobile app that you've designed from scratch. The second one is a feature that you've added to existing website. So look around you, look at the websites that you access every day, analyze the website, run some kind of audit, brainstorm and see what problem they are solving and see what they can do better, right? Just try and make the changes, right, and put it in a portfolio. So you're adding the feature. So you're making it known to the hiring manager that you can fit into any team, regardless of what they've been doing before or what they are not doing. So it means when you're being called to join a new team, you can easily, transition and make good impact in that team, and at the same time make a website from scratch. So a mobile app from scratch, a website from scratch, and a feature that has been added to a mobile app or a website.
Okay, wait, so the second one that you said about a feature being added, so the hiring manager knows you can fit into any team, that's a really good one. I'm wondering, do you recommend that more for a website or for a mobile app that's existing?
Yes, it could either of the two, either. It depends on what stuff you're working on. I remember back in 2019, I designed a mobile app, and I was looking for my first job, but I couldn't get any. So I spoke with a friend of mine, and he recommended me to someone. And I could remember it was a call. It was a voice interview. It was a call, and he asked me, "Okay, good. Jimo, how are you doing? I'm good. What can you do?" I told him this is what I can do, and he said, "Do you have any experience?" I said, "No, but I'm very comfortable myself." Right. Then he said, "Okay, fine, good. What have you worked on?" I showed him, and he said, "Okay, but unfortunately, we won't be able to, admit you into the program or something like that." I was very devastated and disappointed because it's like you need to give beginners a chance.
Oh. Sorry, I accidentally muted you, but so you were saying you need to give beginners a chance?
Yes. So as I was saying, I applied, but I couldn't get in because I did not have a project that is very tangible enough, that looks like it's something that solves real life problems and all of that. And majorly, that's not even because of that, because I had zero experience, 0 year experience. But what I learned over the years is, as a beginner, it's very tough to set your hands on real life projects. That's that real life project. It's very hard. But if you have a colleague who happens to be in the system already, to be in tech, is working, is a developer or something, because you need to make developers your friend as designers, right? So if you have a developer who happens to be your friend, you can try and work on something with him so that when you design, he implements and it goes live. Even if it has 0 users, let it go live. The reason why I said this is because when you have a portfolio and you have those projects in your portfolio, there's something you feel on top of the world if there's a link to that project that is live. So recruiters can check, okay, this is the design and this is the implementation. Oh, let me see. Oh, it's live. People are using it. You have 10 users, you have 50 users, you have 100 users. Good. It's a real life project. People are using it. That's fantastic. It's a total different thing if you have projects that, okay, it's nice, but it's not implemented yet. Users are not using it yet. We don't even know if it's going to go live in the next 5-10 years. There's a difference. I'm not saying they are bad, but there's a very high chance if you work on projects that has a real life impact, or that they will be going live very soon. So what helped me with my first gig was I have a developer friend who happens to be learning JavaScript at that point, and I was learning design as well. He got a gig and I had to run the designs. We worked together alongside it, and that was the first project that went live. And I leveraged on that to get other gigs as well. So it works.
That's so smart. I always hear people talking about real life projects, but as designers, you need someone to implement your project. So where can you find these developer friends?
Yeah, the best people you can make your friends are developers that are on the same level as you, that you guys are just learning. It might take time. It might take some effort, because obviously, even when they develop or implement whatever you've designed, they might not do it 100% effectively or pixel perfect. What I mean by that is they exact design and the exact development. But that's not a problem, because that way you guys are helping each other. You are strengthening him and you're challenging him to be better in your skill set, and at the same time you are trying to make sure that you learn how to work with developers at the very beginning of your career, and at the same time you're both creating opportunities for yourselves, because as a developer he would include that project in his portfolio as well, and when he gets an internship or any job role or something, is going to reference that. And you as a designer as well, when you get an interview, you're obviously going to reference that as well. So it's a win-win solution, win-win situation for both you, the designer, and the developer. If you want to outsource this to an experienced developer, then you should be ready to, spill in the cash a bit, because he might not want to do it for you for free. But someone that is just learning, that is in the same phase as you, is going to do that for free, because he needs to work on something as well. So
I think that's a really good advice, because then you can practice, get experience with the developer handoff, get experience with soft skills like communication, which can help you stand out. So thanks for sharing. Moving on to the job search. So we did get a lot of questions about like interviews and other stuff. So like, do you have any general tips for the job search?
Yeah, of course. The first thing is to network offline and online. Show people what you can do. Post on, if you have a WhatsApp, post there, let people know, probably twice a week. If you're on LinkedIn, post, right? Twice a month or 3 times a month. It depends on how you're able to work with many projects. And, meet people offline and let them understand what you're doing. If you have developers as colleagues or seniors, or I don't know, anywhere that you think, probably from your school or something, reach out to them, let them understand you now do UI UX design, and this is what you've been able to do. And at the same time, there's this trick that you can also use. You can reach out to CTOs or hiring managers on LinkedIn by writing mails and, willing to work voluntarily. Yes, for a period of time, it works. You can just send a pitch deck or, I'm sorry, I said a pitch deck, a cold email to a company and, tell them your interest, show that you're interested in what they're doing, and volunteer and tell them you're willing to join their design team for, let's say, 6 months, 3 months without payment, and see what happens. They will take you, fine. You might not get your payment at that time, obviously, yeah, sure, but you're going to learn a lot. And when you impress very well, trust me, they will take you in. So you just start from there. So be willing to work for free for a period of time. And when you feel like you've learned a lot and you feel like there's nothing really much, or you can't continue, probably due to some other issues, you can pull out, and you would add that to your experience. It's part of your experience. 6 months internship or voluntary work with a Canada-based company or a Nigerian-based company or something. It doesn't matter. It's part of your portfolio. It's part of your curriculum vitae, and from there you leverage on that.
I think that's very interesting, because literally everybody I talk to who's been successful, they talk about your advice, networking, asking for referrals, code emails. They did all of that. And I talked to so many people who landed like 3 jobs in tech because of doing that. But one thing I would add is just to be consistent, because you can't just send one code email or one message and then be done. You need to reach out to people like every single day. Is that how you got your job, Jamal?
Well, for me, what I did is my path is totally different. Like I said, I work in an ISP company that provides internet services. We're in 3 West African countries, including Nigeria, right? So this is how I got my first job. Then I used to be a network engineer in that same company, and while I was an intern, while I was doing that, I was learning design, and COVID came up, and we all were forced to work remotely. So during lockdown, I kept, learning design. So what I did was I looked at the company's products and I noticed so many errors, so many bugs when it comes to design. You know what I did? I just picked up my laptop and I started working on them, course correcting them, all of them. It took me like a month and I submitted that work to my manager, sorry, to the manager in the research and development department. Then I copied the CEO and some other stakeholders as well. And the next thing was an interview for me to join that department. Yes. So it's more like I moved from being a network engineer in that same company to being a product designer in that same company. Right. So that's basically how I got my first job. I have been able to overhaul their design systems, their products, the websites, mobile apps, and all of that since then. Yeah.
Was it just you, or were there other designers too?
Okay, yes. They used to have a designer then, right? You know, it's not a software company, so the design team is going to be very lean. Yeah. So but the guy left before I got in, and I wasn't even aware that there was a person in that department that handles design. So I only did that because I felt I needed to show them what I'm capable of. That apart from network engineering, I've acquired a new skill, and this is where I want to just master, for that. So I was able to revamp their products, and I give it to them, and because I was an intern, a network engineer intern, and because of what I did, I was staffed as a permanent staff then, yes. And from them, I rose to. I happen to be the senior product designer with two other members, but I do more like project management these days. Yeah, so it's all good. Yeah.
That's so interesting. So, like, after listening to your story, I want to recap the highlights so people can take the advice from it. So, the first thing is you currently worked at a company, but instead of looking for a new job, you tried to transition into a new role at your current company. I think that's a lot easier because they already know and trust you, right? The second thing you did was to ask for what you wanted, and then you're just so proactive. You made those fixes already, so all they can do is like say great work. So I really like that. And the third thing, I think you documented everything. So all the amazing things that you did, you made sure they were written down, because I think even if they didn't accept all your fixes, you could have still put all that in your portfolio because you documented all of it. So very good takeaways from what you just told me. We also had a question from a student. So as a designer, are you always designing new things for the company you're working for, or do you improve on things that have been designed and released to the public already?
Thank you. The company is fast growing, scaling. Recently, we had a partnership with Microsoft after our partnership with Facebook ended, I think last year. So, and as a company, you need to be innovative in everything that you do. So, last year, quarter 3 of last year, yes, I designed a new product for the company, more like their super app, an app that integrates all your services together on a single app. Yeah, so I worked on that, and it's going to be released before the end of this year. And at the same time, I do not design for our end users alone. As a telecom company, an internet service provider company, you need to work with developers to provide to work on internal tools that your team will be using. We have our customer support team, we have our sales team, we have our network operations team, and all other departments. So there's an internal tool that the company uses to manage customers, to manage resources, inventories, and every other thing. So I do not design for end users alone. I design internally for the team as well. I'm talking about over 500 staffs, working in the company. So most times I just add new features to some things, but you can't compare me as I am as a designer working in an ISP company with a designer that is working in a software development company. They are two different things. If you're working in the software development companies, I can guarantee you'll be designing new things, new products, probably almost every quarter. But if you work in an ISP company, it's not going to be a regular thing. So it's when it comes, you have to fix things or introduce new features. Or a software company, you'll be shipping a lot of products all the time. So it's not all the time, but I still work with either feature-based or just making some little changes that won't take you more than 30 minutes.
That's so interesting. I never realized that there were jobs where it's like you work on internal stuff and then like make fixes versus pushing out new products every day. Because I kind of assumed most companies already have an existing product for you to work on. So interesting. My next question for you is more again around the job search. So in the interview stage, do you have any tips for people who are getting interviews?
Yes, of course. Interview tips, if you're from my country, you just need to be very prepared, your internet device, your laptop, get everything ready. Those are basic things. And try to ask questions as well. Interview shouldn't be just the hiring manager or whoever is in charge. Just ask you questions and you answer them, and that'll be all. Ask questions, be curious, let them understand that you are interested in this position, right? And do your research before going to the interview, right? Check the company, see what they are doing, see how they are doing it. Even you can try and reference some part of what they are doing that you feel like you have a better way to do that, and don't be scared, just be calm, understand the question they're asking and try and answer them in the best possible way that you could, and show some high level of confidence, because that's very important. You need to be very, very confident. Yeah.
I think that's a big one because if you're like nervous, then you might not have good answers. So like practice, research, that's the key. Okay, so we have some other questions about a portfolio. So what's the best way to present your portfolio? Is Behance okay, or do you recommend some other places to put it?
Yeah, that's cool. I have a couple of colleagues that uses Behance very well, a lot. And the way I met Behance in 2019 is totally different from the way that Behance is now. In fact, they have really, really improved with so much functionality. Then I think in 2019, I'm not sure you can even have case studies on Behance. It's just pixels. But now you can write a full case studies on Behance and all of that. So it depends. I can say it's very subjective. It's what you feel is more comfortable for you. For some people, they use no-code tools to present their portfolios. Some people, they use Notion to present their portfolios. I hope you guys know Notion. Some people use they create a custom website on Squarespace and put their portfolios in. So all you have to do, if you're thinking of using Behance, what I would recommend is get a senior product designer's portfolio that you've seen that is very, very good on Behance, and try to implement something similar the way they've done it. If you're not sure about anything, you can reach out to them and ask questions on how they're able to put in some things on that. If you're strictly looking at using that Behance, but if you're still looking at probably a website or Notion or something, no problem. Presentation is very important, like you've said, very important, because the way you arrange your files, your text, and all of that, it needs to be very, very good. So, and the best way to learn that is to look at product designers, seniors, people that are 4, 5, 6 years in the industry, see their portfolio, see how they've arranged it, and try and do something similar.
That's really good advice. But where do you find these portfolios? Can you just Google for them or like find on LinkedIn?
Yes, that comes through networking. Like I said in the first place, as a designer, beginner now, you need to go to LinkedIn. People that you know already, or that you feel like, oh, I know this person to be a UX designer for 3, 4 years. you follow them, right? And you see, and I can guarantee you there's a very high possibility that you're going to see the link to his portfolio in his bio. Also, when you follow them, you're going to see similar people that are in that same industry, that are also product designers. You follow them. And from there, you're going to see how their portfolio looks like. If you're on Twitter, if you're on design Twitter as a Nigerian, there are many designers on Twitter that post every day, and their works are very, very good and excellent. And I can guarantee you their portfolio is on their Twitter profile. Check it up, see what they are doing, see how they're doing it, and try and replicate that. For me, when I started, I know of about 3 of them, and one works with Meta now. I don't know if you guys know him, Pixel Dan. That's Daniel. He works with Meta now. I know another person who happens to produce or have good portfolio settings and all of that. And these people, I have learned from them as well, because you don't have to, it's not until you reach out to them before you can learn from them. By just looking at their portfolio, going to their profile, looking at their portfolio, assessing it every day or for a couple of hours, you would see what they are doing and you try and replicate that. I'm not saying plagiarism, but the methodology, the process, how they arrange their stuffs, how they write their language and all of that. And you're good.
Wait, you mentioned a bunch of people. Are you able to share their handles or like links to their social media or portfolios?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. While you do that, I just want to recap something that was said in the Zoom chat here. Somebody was asking, do I have to wait for 3 projects before I start reaching out and networking? Can I do it with just one portfolio? And I kind of answered that. I said that it's always better to start ASAP because you can learn with feedback. I think you should always start before you're ready and step out of your comfort zone, and you just save so much time and learn faster, because some other people might point out something you've been doing wrong this whole time when you're working on a project, and then you can fix that for your future projects, right? So my advice is just to reach out, try, improve with feedback, and then you can work on more projects to get confidence in the side. Yeah. So could you just send me or send in the Zoom chat the links to all of these people's handles so we can network and admire their portfolios?
Okay. Just send.
Are you sending them in the chat?
Yes, I'm doing that.
Perfect. Yeah. And again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and I'll be asking them. I still have some questions here in the backlog, but yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
These 2 profiles are on Twitter. But for you to do a deeper search, what I would recommend is follow them on Twitter and see their mutuals or people that are following them. Obviously, you see thousands of designers are following them. And when you click on their bio, you're going to see their portfolio. I can guarantee that most times I can see 90% of designers have their portfolio link on their bio on Twitter. So
that's awesome. One other thing I want to mention is one of our students, like an entry-level student, landed a job in UX design after posting everything on Twitter. I think he posted his portfolio. So here is his story. If you want to hear it, I just posted it in the chat. He also has had, his portfolio is so good. So if you go to his Twitter, you can find it. Okay, perfect. So back to the questions. We have a few now, so maybe we can just speed through them. So the next one is for somebody who is just starting out in UX design. Could you recommend the best resources, whether it's websites or apps, to be great at the job or to just start the UX journey?
Okay, for someone who is just learning design, could you recommend the best resources to be great at that job? Okay. Resources comes in different categories. I do not have a direct answer for that. Resources in terms of books, resources in terms of design kits, resources in terms of training and tutorials, resources in terms of, let me even say, mentors or people that have been in the industry. There are resources as well. So you just have to be straightforward and see what works for you. If you're someone that enjoys to read design books, it helps. Go ahead and do it. If you're the one that feel comfortable with checking YouTube and watching tutorials on auto layout or how to do things, go on and do them. If you're someone that feels very much comfortable with working with a mentor or someone one-on-one to be better, go ahead and do it. And if you're someone that you have this self-taught mind or zeal, like, you can just go out to the internet, check and look for whatever you need at that point, utilize it, learn from it, then you're good. So what works for A might not work for B, right? So for me, my own, what I've learned recently is I'm more like the self-taught person, because I could remember I just opened, I downloaded Adobe XD then, and I just started all of a sudden. But I knew I was designing rubbish. It wasn't very good. I saw it myself, like, this is not how it looks. When you design something and you look at the apps and you look like, no, it's totally different. So I reached out to a mentor then who mentored me for a month, and that was it. I leveraged on that and I kept learning online. So there's no direct answer for your question, if you're lower. But what I would advise is there are resources in many categories. In terms of human beings, I'm talking of mentors. In terms of materials, textbooks, ebooks. In terms of video tutorials on YouTube, and even entry level, it's another resources as well, because there are categories of tasks and courses that you have to do. So you just have to understand yourself very well to know what works.
That makes a lot of sense. So I think I want to rephrase the question, not in terms of resources, but in terms of skills you need to learn. And then based on those skills, people can use whatever learning method they find best.
Oh, okay. All right. So for that, focus on UX, user experience. It's very good. I know we're all about UI, the colors, look at the gradients, they look very nice. Yeah, it's cool. But when you're very, very good with user experience, there is no challenge, there's no task that will be given to you that you would not do perfectly. Because you're the brain box, you're the brain behind whatever product you're going to design. So if you're very, very good at, let's say, understanding the flow from sign up or from a button page to getting to the home screen to performing basic activities and all of that, you're going to win because you know what you do. If there's a problem, if there's if your stakeholders or whoever is in charge, if they tells you that customers are dropping off at this point, we don't know why. Because you understand the user experience, you can talk to customers, you can do your research, you know how to iterate, you can work with data, you know what you need to do to make that change to be a positive thing. So if you're very, very good with user experience, you're going to win in this market, into this market. If you're very good with UI, no problem. But if you're a bit average with UI, that's not a problem, right? Because most of the times, all the pixels you can see that designers are working on, I can tell you, if you don't have a development team that is very, very good, all those designs are going to be a different thing by the time they implement them, right? But your user experience should be the same, right? So if you're very, very good at user experience, you can win every way. Even if you're working with terrible developers or very good developers, it doesn't matter. But if your UI is very, very good and you don't have UX skills, you are going to struggle with your company or whatever you work from, because when they ask you to do something, you won't get the best way or the best way to do it. You might actually solve that problem, but it won't be the best way, right? Because as a designer, you're solving problems. And at the same time, if you're even working with very good developers and your UI is good, but the user experience is not that good, that's going to be a problem, because at the end of the day, you're going to see that it's the developers that would now even correct you and tell you, why can't we just do it like this, instead of this, So UI UX altogether, it's all good, but give more priority to the user experience. Then at the same time, learn prototyping is good so that you can communicate and pour out your mind effectively to whoever you'll be presenting to. And prototyping on Figma now is now very, very, very dynamic. You know, it's getting crazier. Prototyping those days used to be just click, 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 and close. But now you can even type and add videos and all of sort of things like that on, with Figma prototyping. And at the same time, please learn how to do research. Very, very important. Very, very important. If you can't research, if you can't do research, you're going to struggle because you don't even know the pain point of the customers or the users. So you need to learn how to talk to users. You need to learn how to document what they're saying. You need to learn how to now sit and analyze the problems and what you can offer. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that was so much good advice. So you talked about UX designers, they're basically helping solve problems. And I think you mentioned data as well, because when you do user research, like user interviews, you have to work with data a lot to kind of dig into, you know, why there's a problem. That kind of relates to another question we got about like what skills complement UI UX. So like after somebody takes a UI UX course and they're getting really good at UX, getting good at UI, are there any other skills like coding, data, business, or like product that you would recommend they learn?
Okay, can you repeat that question, please?
Yeah, so what other skills would you recommend learning that's outside of UX that you think would help? Is it like coding, product management, data analysis?
Okay, yeah, sure, good. For me personally, I'm a business person. Yeah. What I mean by business person is when I design products, I look beyond what's going to happen internally. I see myself as the owner of the business or the company and see how my customers would react to that feature that we just pushed or whatever we've done. So as a UX designer, the skills you need to learn alongside this, you need to have this business mindset, right? If your product manager or the CFO tells you that we are not making sales because something is happening, you need to be able to have this broader view of not just drawing rectangles and circles alone, but actually learning why people are not patronizing or people are dropping off. And that comes with talking to users. And let me give you a very good example. When you talk to users, they might tell you, yes, of course, I wanted to buy that item they have that day, but I could not see where the checkout button is, or I'm convinced I don't know what the delivery fee and the platform fee is. Now, as a designer, you're not thinking as a designer then, you're thinking as a business person. But because you have the skills of a designer, you cannot go back to your design page and look at what is happening there. And when you compare, when you link the two together, you would understand that the fact that you're thinking as a user, with the users, they don't know what UI UX means, they don't care, they just want to get things done and just move on with their life. So, but you're thinking as both now, and because you understand what UI UX is, it's very easier for you to use some business metrics or ideations to actually solve that problem, so that you're not just going to be talking or fixing problems just as a designer alone, probably because they tell you the CTA button is small or it's big or the color is not clear enough or something. But you have this mindset as a business person, like you take ownership of that product, like, why are people not buying or why are people dropping off at this point? By the time you start asking these questions and you start talking to users, you would have a broader view of why that is happening, especially if the reason why they are dropping off has nothing to do with the value of the product or service they are getting. So you need to be a business person. You need to have that user-centric design, abilities and capabilities. You need to be able to talk to people, do your research, dig deep, and find what could be happening.
Interesting. So I'm hearing like product business related stuff. Maybe would marketing count or no?
Yes, of course. Marketing, yeah, that's one thing. Let me give you an example. I worked with Facebook designers, developers a few years back concerning our retailer platform, and I wasn't the one that designed that platform actually, but we were not getting sales at that point, and I needed to move down the street and start talking to people that are using that service. And what I get to understand is most of those people are, should I say, semi-illiterate, right? And the level of capabilities they have when it comes to interacting with user interfaces and product like this was a bit limited. And the initial UI was very sophisticated. You can only interact with it if you're very, very good or you understand, But the product, the people that will be using the product, the end users are people that are not very, very literate, that do not understand some certain terminologies. So if I did not, walk down the streets to ask questions, to interview them, I wouldn't know. So I proposed that we redesign the service that would really, really be streamlined for those categories of people so that when they look at it, they would understand it seamlessly. Now, a very good example is when someone wants to get a service online or something, and let's say a CTA button at some point is download now or something. And let's say, for example, it's a crypto project or something, and they don't even understand what Bitcoin is or what Ethereum is or servers or something like that. How do you do it? And you need to learn and try to make those people understand those terminologies. So that way you have to be able to design your product, especially when it comes to your UX writing, to be very, very streamlined to what they would understand. So that's not going to be like you're losing users because they don't understand some terminologies in the app, or because they don't understand what to do next when they are when they're on the platform or something. So it's nice if you can add UX writing to your skill set, because as a designer, I'm so sorry, there are many things to learn. But if you don't know UX writing too, or if you are very poor at writing, you are going to struggle, because the language you use in your products are very, very important, extremely important. So if you're not guiding users very well with the way you write, with the way you communicate to your users back when they're interacting with your service, your app, your platform, there's going to be a problem. So learn how to write very well. Do not write too much. Do not confuse the users. Just give them one at a time and let it be words and sentences. Anyone, I mean anyone, even a 10-year-old would understand.
Okay. This reminded me of another example, because at entry level we have a referral program. I don't know if this is a marketing or UX example, but in the email, after somebody refers a friend and the friend uses it, I have a little badge that I made on Canva, and I'm like, valued community member, thank you so much for helping us grow our community. Like, you can share this badge and like be proud of it on your LinkedIn. And actually, I didn't expect so many people to love that experience and share their badge, but they did, and it was so nice. Okay, so we do have one more question. I think this is going to be the last one. And then I also wanted to share a bit of my portfolio that I made from the entry-level 6-week course. I made this portfolio in like 3 days because I was rushing for the deadline. But the last question is, do you still code for your company? Like, if you do code and design, like, are you getting paid for both? Or like, what should you look out for when you transition in the same company?
Okay, all right. Thank you, Adam. No, I do not code for my. I don't. I never did. Like I said, I think I happened to lead a team of 6 developers, 2 designers, and then my supervisor and the manager. So because of that, if it requires that you code, well, if you feel like you're comfortable with it, no problem, you can do that. I mean, as a designer, if you code, if you do front end, for example, and you still design, then you're going to be collecting 2 people's salary. The salary of a developer I'm a designer, so that's not a problem. So far, you can cope. But if you feel like it's going to affect your growth with design because you are a designer and not a developer, you might choose to opt out, right? But if you feel like when you do it and you're going to be the Superman, right? Like someone who can code, and at the same time, you design and you still go on your SDK, Xcode, and you still code and you implement and you deploy. Good, you're a Superman. So that's cool. But if you feel like it's going to affect your growth or your mental stability and stuff like that, you should not. Then you also ask that when you transition to the same company, what do you need to look out for in the change of role that's taking place?
Yeah.
Nothing much. Just be confident, be calm, and do what you expected to do, right? For me, I said I have a tech degree, obviously in telecommunications and computer science. So transitioning wasn't a big deal for me. I understood what I did Cisco certifications, stuff like that before I transitioned. So I worked in the field before I transitioned to being a product designer. So nothing actually changed. What changed is that I wasn't going out to the field anymore. I wasn't configuring servers anymore. I was just with my laptop, opening Figma, Whimsical, and trying pixels. So those are the only things that actually changed. So I do not code for now. I only manage a team of like 6 developers, 2 designers. And most times this year, I've not been designing very well. I've been doing more like product management.
Okay, interesting. So you don't need to code, but you can if you want to learn, just make sure it doesn't affect your growth and mental stability. Got it. Thanks for that great answer. I'm gonna share my portfolio now because some people wanted to learn. Feel free to give critiques. I know it's not very good UX wise. I rushed this, but like you said, Jimo, I was very interested in marathon training. So I decided to make an app related to that. This was after entry level's UX design level 1 course, by the way. I made it in like 6 weeks. So I wrote a bit about myself. Entry level gives you like a whole structure for how to do your portfolio. And then these screens were all just like random templates that I found, and I just made it marathon related. And then I interviewed only 2 people. Not a lot of my friends are marathon runners, so I could only find 2 people, and I summarized them here. And then entry level made me do a bunch of stuff like affinity mapping, all the stuff that should be on every beginner portfolio. It's here. I didn't dive deep into it like Jimo. I didn't even like do metrics or anything. I didn't build out the app. I didn't have developer friends who were free to do this. But I think for a beginner first portfolio, maybe it's like okay, because I got guidance like every step of the way. I didn't actually conduct usability testing because that was optional and I didn't have time. But the learnings is very important. I think I saved so much time with the templates. I think the UI here is better than the UX because some of the screens did not make sense. But yeah. Oh, and then this template I use is SlidesGo. So if anybody is making presentations, use this website. It's really good. Yeah. Anyway, that was my portfolio. Yeah. I will be sharing all of these resources in an email that will be sent out to you. So let me share the link. And Jimo, are you okay with sharing your LinkedIn as well if people have follow-up questions?
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. Yeah, so that brings us to the end of this event. Ooh, let me share my portfolio link too. So if you are taking entry level UX course, feel free to use that to inspire you, I guess. Awesome. That brings us to the end of the event. Thank you so much, Jimo, for taking the time to share all your amazing advice. If everything is recorded, so if you signed up via email, everything will be emailed, including your portfolio, Jimo. Wait, sorry, not portfolio, your LinkedIn. Are you able to link it in the chat just now?
Yes, I just dropped my LinkedIn profile here.
Perfect.
So, if you have any questions, and just put them right in my DM. I'm going to respond to that. My portfolio is there as well.
Okay, perfect. And all of this is gonna be emailed, and I will grab all the links for everyone. Perfect. Thanks so much, everyone. I hope you have a good 9. It's 5 p.m. now, right? No, 6 p.m. Oh, okay. Go eat dinner. Thank you so much for being here. It was a great call and great advice. Bye, everyone.